It's Zero's son.
Monkeyboy, I got mistaken for you by your favorite person in the world yesterday.
Darwkins?
Yeah, yeah. I joined his panel, and he was saying he does his like routine, and he said, "Okay, intelligibility is either accounted for in the God or not God world. That's a true dichotomy." And I said, "No, that's a false dichotomy. But even if I take it to be true, right? Let's put it in a syllogism or a proposition, right?" And he was like, he obviously didn't have enough to let me finish, because what I was going to say was I was going to draw out how he's begging the question, which is if you say the proposition is Cage is drinking something, right? And then P1 is Cage is drinking whiskey or not whiskey. Cage is drinking whiskey or not drinking whiskey. Well, the second premise, you can negate either one, but say you negate that I'm drinking whiskey, that I'm drinking something, right? So Cage is not drinking whiskey. But then it would follow that the conclusion must be the other disjunct, which would be that I'm not drinking whiskey, which is the second premise. So Darwkins did not let me finish that, but instead he interrupted me saying, "Are you Monkeyboy? I don't trust stalkers."
And then he kicked you, didn't he?
And then he kicked me and blocked me because he thinks I'm Monkeyboy.
Bro. That man is like...
What about Darwkins that you really don't follow? It's a simple argument, and it's actually a fact of reality.
The argument.
I would love to hear the argument.
So what? He just said what grounds reality? What grounds
intelligibility?
Yeah.
He said, "I know what means past that."
That means what grounds your basis of having
by grounds?
Huh?
What do you mean by grounds?
Where's your source that you can go to, that you can say that this is the reason for X? What reference? What is your reference point?
I don't think your argument.
What did he say? You know what he's asking for?
I don't know what you're really asking for, no. And I also don't know why you're saying I need to have one.
Because everything you do, and every conversation that you have has presuppositions and a set of rules that you either agree upon or definitions that you agree or disagree upon. You can just disagree on everything. That's cool. Like, I guess that's what philosophy. I reject that. It's cool. Like, I don't get the purpose to that. You're not making any progress. But even your presuppositions are presuppositions because you cannot ground anything objectively.
What is meant by ground?
Within reality.
I don't think you understand what the difference between an axiom and a presupposition is. Because when you're saying I'm presupposing, I'm going to be charitable, and what I think you want to say is I'm predicating. But what your leader says is you either predicate from a God or not God world. And if you were listening to what I said 45 seconds ago, you would see how that's begging the question, not a true dichotomy.
I'm curious because he gave what seemed to be an analysis of ground. I didn't really capture, but I think I can understand. I might be able to understand what you mean. Can you repeat what you meant by ground?
Yeah, when
what grounds logic?
Okay, so you start. We are. Let's say what is the fair thing to do? Start from agnosticism, right? In reality, if you get
wait, what do you mean by ground?
I can say I don't know. Say I don't know, right? Is that the true starting point of anything? Is saying I don't know? Can you agree upon that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Can you agree that saying I don't know is
Brother,
the
what is
first
wrong
thing
with you
to
defining words?
I'm just asking you what you mean by grounding.
Wow. When we say God knows all things before.
Oh my goodness. Do you know what he's asking for?
I could care less. You guys act like
Oh my God.
Well, look,
why are you guys in high school?
You asked KJ a question about what grounds logic.
Can you not? Are you so far gone from reality? You're not capable of having conversations without.
We're trying to have a conversation.
Wait. Are you so out of touch reality you can't understand people's point of view without
disinterested in having the question to answer now?
Without putting something in a syllogism. Everything has to be that
I'm not asking for a syllogism.
for you to understand what's coming out of somebody's mouth.
Bro,
do you have to? That's insane. That is your point. Your point of reference to prove that you're existing. What is your point of reference that you can prove that you're existing? What can you ground your existence in?
I don't know what you mean by ground. Is that a
What can
synonym
you
with?
point to? What can you point to within reality that can factually, objectively ground
He
your own
still wants
personal
to find the
existence?
word.
Wow.
Look, there's a lot there to unpack. So you said, what is the objective reference point for which I can, like, reason or like? I'm not really understanding what. Yeah, I don't think I have an understanding of what you mean by ground there.
Okay.
You repeat
The
it?
objective. Okay. What I mean by grounding is the objective truth of all reality, of all known possibilities that can be
By
actualized.
grounding, when you say
Bro,
what
just use
grounds
Google.
X, you're saying what objectively true X?
What?
Yeah.
It's just grammatically incoherent, right?
What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, objectively true just
Yeah.
can't be exchanged there grammatically for is grounded.
Dude, like, how do
When
you
you say
know?
something is grounded by Y, you mean Y is made objectively true by X or something?
I'm saying
Asking for what explains like
yes.
X.
I'm saying what?
Why don't you just say what explains it?
What explains it, bro?
Because in metaphysics, what's meant by grounding is not actually identical to an explanation. Grounding in metaphysics is very complex. It's defined as some type of, you can understand it as some type of fundamental ontological dependency relation that's like asymmetric, irreflexive, and transitive. And that's just not going to capture what's meant by an explanation. Now, if you're just asking what explains the fact that I exist, I'm not sure what answering that question really has to do in offering reasons to believe God exists. But I'm fine with just, for the sake of argument, saying I don't have I'm not even, when you say what explains why I exist,
Yes.
I there is like an indexical, right? So I'm presuming you're talking about what explains like I as in actually me. Now there can be a set of, biological explanations from my parents, but I'm not sure if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking what do you?
Okay, well then,
how do you?
my parents
how do you
explain.
Prove, how do you prove it? No existence. How do you prove reality itself? Like, what are you
But
using?
by
what are you
reality,
using?
you mean
Yes.
the set of things that exist, right?
Exactly. Yes.
How do you prove the set of things that exist? But
Yes.
set of things that exist is not a proposition. Like a set, right? A mathematical set that contains a set of elements, and the elements there all satisfy the property of being real. Right? That's what the cardinality there.
And what
It's just-
satisfy the property of being real means? What does that mean? How do you know that it satisfies the property of being real when you can't?
I don't know what satisfies me, but look, if you're just
Satisfies.
asking me how do I know there's a set of real things, I'm just well you're asking me is that what you mean by prove that you're just asking what proves there's a set of real things?
Exactly.
Okay. And by real thing, by real there's just like a synonym with like thing that exists, right? Like set of things that exist.
Right.
And by exist, do you mean something's coordinated in space? Or do you mean something other?
Exists. I mean, something's. Well, it exists to me would be outside of space. Would be grounded in. I'm using the word grounded, but I'm in God, in the mind of God. Existence is in the mind.
By grounding, you meant explanation, and then from explanation, you changed it to proof. And now you're asking what proves there's a set of things that exist. And I'm trying to understand what you mean by existent there. Because coextensive to what I mean by something exists is that it's coordinated in space. Also, bless you, Trey, but
Thank you.
if presumably you don't mean something coordinated in space by existent, right? Because you think God exists, and God's not coordinated in space.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have a different sense of existence there.
Yes.
Okay, when you say, so what do you mean by existence there?
So when I say that I can say that there's something outside of myself and me or this universe that makes this go, right? If you saying that you are like you are going to ground, it really comes down to how do you like the mind existing before. Like,
I'm not sure if we're on the same page here. Are you understanding to be answering the question of what you might mean by existence? Because it seems there might be confusion dialectically. It doesn't at least it doesn't seem you're answering the question.
Okay. So existence to me is an experience. An experience is something that comes from the mind. The mind, I believe, it's all of it is God, right? Everything is a subcategory of God's mind, right? We are
To
just
exist, well, let's just make so to exist. By to exist, there you just mean to have an experience.
yes, to perceive perception, yes, consciousness.
But wouldn't you
Yes.
say that non-real things don't have experiences?
Non-real things don't have experiences. Um, yeah, but I'm not holding those. I'm not holding the non-real things experience as their own experience. I'm holding God's knowledge of those things as the knowledge of the knowing of those things that you're talking about.
I'm not. Well, I don't think I understood that last bit. But where I'm at is, I understood you to be using real identically to exist, and by exist you said to have an experience. But I'm understanding that something must exist. It's required to have an experience. There must be a thing that exists. And under your semantics, that would just translate that something must have an experience to have an experience, which is just a tautology, which I don't understand the expression. It's required that something exists to have an experience. And I'm not sure you do either, right? Because look, if I say Harry Potter has experiences, you would deny that because it's not true that there is something there that exists to have experiences.
It is true, actually. Yeah.
True that Harry Potter has experiences?
If you're talking about the actor of Harry Potter or the writer,
That was dumbass.
no, but listen, dumbass. The mind,
Character that lives
Harry
in
Potter.
Hogwarts.
Harry Potter is a thought that is produced into reality through the experience of the author of the writer. So it is an experience. What are you talking about? What
But
are you talking about?
you understand having experiences is like a predicate, right?
All I'm saying is anything that you think about or know about is part of an experience or a mind-dependent thing.
But look, when I say, you understand when I say X has an experience, that's like a predicate. All I'm saying is that it's, in order to realize that something has an experience, we must realize first that there is some object that exists
Right.
where that object can satisfy the predicate of having an experience.
Right.
So in the sense of which I say something exists, what we don't mean there is that something has an experience.
I know that's not what you mean, but that's what we mean. That's what Christians mean.
I don't think.
That's what
Look,
Christians mean. We're conscious.
Wait, when you say when you say a rock exists, you don't understand that as a rock has an experience, do you?
No, I'm saying the rock is grounded in the mind of God, and God knows about it.
Existence
And God,
is clear.
God knows that the
Wait.
rock is there. So,
I don't think that. Okay, wait. By grounded, what happened was in the dialogue flow, we went down ground to be some type of explanation, where you changed explanation to proof for the set of real things. When I said that wasn't a proposition, then you changed it to prove there is a set of real things. So if what you mean by God grounds the rock is that God proves the rock exists,
right.
what do you, okay, by proof you mean like some inferential justification, right?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the inferential justification that there's a God?
The definitions and the understanding of how the logical conclusion of how a mind is. If you're materialist, you say a brain comes after a mind. I mean, a mind comes after the brain. And the experience of the definition.
If you're a materialist, you just might be like an analytic reductionist about the mind, but where you just think the mind and the brain are identical, and the language of mind and brain are like coextensive.
Yeah. So the experience happened before. Yeah. So to me,
You're lagging a lot.
my bad. The experience, which is all of experiences, which we would say grounded in God, with knowing all things and all possible things, which would be the mind of God, is then portrayed through us, which is many experiences or tiny bits of a fucking infinite. And
Thing is,
you are.
I just want to get clear. The issue I'm having is, well, when you say God proves that there's rocks, what you're understanding that to be is that God inferentially justifies there are rocks, which just means that God has like epistemic warrant for the belief there are rocks. Okay, that maybe under your view that's true, but I'm not really sure what's like the epistemic warrant for the belief there is a God.
Yeah. Well, the mind. I'm arguing for the mind. I'm arguing for the design within the mind of understanding that a mind comes before the brain by virtue of what our reality is telling us about how we perceive things, right? Like if I perceive something, that's because I'm conscious. If I'm conscious of something, that means I can make a definition or I can understand what I'm perceiving. So like, in order for you kind of to fit objective under those definitions, you're literally saying that a brain and a mind, you kind of, it's weird to explain, but you're literally saying if no
by
humans,
objective, you mean mind independent?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So the world exists mind independently? I thought God facilitates the world.
God independent. The world independent. We are dependent upon the independent mind of God. So subjective is us. Objective is him.
Well, okay, there's two things I don't really understand. If by objective you just mean mind independent, then I would just presume under your view it's not true there exists a world if there is no God. But that also doesn't make sense because sans creation there wasn't a world.
To you, to us, there always was like a God. It just he created it, right?
Wait, but if what satisfies the existence of a world under your view is just God's mind, right? Where the persistence of God's mind is just going to be existentially coextensive to what it means for there to be an existing world. Well, that's just not true because there's instances in which there's God and no world.
Yeah, but it would still be true based upon our reality. You would have to. That's a reality that you would never know about because you took away your own personal mind. So, like, by virtue of you knowing that, it kind of proves itself.
Is everything dependent on God's mind?
Yeah.
So you're a global subjectivist.
I don't know what that means.
It means everything depends on a mind.
Yeah.
Well, it's mind dependent.
That's what Christianity is.
Wait, but you said that I had to have an objective account for the set of real things. And under your view, you don't have that, right? So that's just like a double standard.
No, I do have that because under my view, that is God. Under your view, that is something that does not have a mind, which is just like logic or whatever. You're just saying like,
if God stopped existing, would the world persist, or would it just like decay or like stop existing?
That's a trick question. I would say it would stop existing.
Then it's mind dependent.
Yeah.
Okay, so then under your view, there's nothing that's objective.
There's nothing. No, under my view, the only way to be objective is to have that thing because he is the objective thing. And we are.
What do you mean by objective?
The thing that holds all facts of reality.
Doesn't mean to hold facts of reality. Are you talking about a set relation? The relation between a collection and its members?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
You're saying God is a set.
I'm saying God knows the set.
What? You said, correct me if I'm wrong. You said that God is what holds the set of facts. And by holds the set of facts. And by holds the set of facts, what you mean there is that like God is a set. Now, I don't understand what it means for God to be a set because sets don't have minds and sets don't exist. Sets are like some collection of elements. There's no such thing as an actual set.
Well, that's your worldview, right? But you would I would say in reality, we do have conceptual and abstract knowledge of sets and concepts that are logical. But
I mean, I can grant you we have abstract knowledge about sets. What
yeah,
I'm saying
so
doesn't make sense is to say that a set exists. And what I also don't make sense of is to say that a set satisfies the predicate of having a mind.
I would
Because
say
sets
set
don't
exists.
satisfy predicates.
I say sets
Predicates
exist.
are of the members contained in a set.
Sets exist objectively because sets are literally what you use to even understand other objective aspects of reality. So
Well,
like
nothing
sets,
is objective under your view.
no, the facts of reality is subjective, which is grounded in God. But
If God stopped existing, would there still be sets?
no, but you wouldn't know that, so you can't prove that.
But presumably you know that.
God would know that. God would know that.
Well, then, but when you said that they would fail to persist if God ceased to exist, that was like a knowledge claim there, yeah?
It's a knowledge came from my perspective, yes.
Okay, and you take it the knowledge claim you made was true?
To be honest, I don't know about that one.
So you...
Like no, that's to be honest, I don't know. I don't like
Bruh.
I don't know about that one. But I do take it to be true. But I haven't really.
President, can you tell me where we're at in the conversation now, man?
Are you dumb? Like, do you think I'm lost in this conversation?
Yes, I do.
Like, you're really fucking idiotic.
Was it interesting before, KJ, when you were talking? Because if it was, I might ask Trey for the video because I want to watch.
No, I basically did the same thing you did, gave definitions that would slightly not correlate with his view to see if he would accept them. He rejected them only to end up agreeing with me. I actually finished his
What?
sentences. They're kind of cute like that.
What does it mean to like reject definitions? Is he saying, as he uses the term, he doesn't associate it with the same content?
Yep, he did not like what I defined change to be, and then he ended up agreeing.
There's not just one definition of change. And not one. That's like saying there's one definition of time. Are you dumb?
I absolutely agree with you, but did you not end up agreeing with me like 10 minutes after?
Okay, so it doesn't mean that your definition doesn't. It just means that maybe your definition of understanding fits for this category, but not another. That doesn't mean that it doesn't. There could be two different definitions that could fit different categories and still accurate. What are you talking about? I agree on one happy. You think that definition applies to all things. I say that definition maybe applies to one thing, and a different definition applies to a different thing. They're still consistent.
Sure, but you didn't give me an alternative.
Yes, I did. You can't follow.
Maybe I wasn't listening, and I know this is really like backtracking, but perhaps you could give it to me again.
I said the way we think in cause and effect, and things of maybe happening, could happening, this can be, or that can be.
I understand
okay, cool.
that.
All right, cool.
Sorry,
so that's your definition.
Man. I agree with you. Right? We agree on that already. I don't want to talk about what we agree on.
Okay,
I want
cool.
Your alternative postulation.
Wait. I'm just. You said rehash. You wanted to rehash, right?
I want your alternative.
I think he was asking you to rehash what was your like alternative theory of
Okay,
change.
it's gonna be under 2 minutes. I'm speaking pretty fast. So cool. So that's that one definition. The other definition to God, right? When you're talking about cause and effect and maybe this or maybe that, there's no maybe. So that definition doesn't apply to God because there just is, and there's just knowledge, and there's just knowing, right? So you're talking about the difference.
He's just asking you to define change under your view.
Yes, and that is okay. So under the view of God, there's no such thing as change. Under the view in our perspective, it fits your definition of change.
So you're just saying, with respect to God, that's a nonsensical term?
What the fuck are you talking about? Can you not track?
Not just understand change in terms of there being like distinct events.
If that was the way that we thought about change for God, there's literally no argument to be made because, of course, we think God thinks about other things. Like what?
What sense of change are you talking about? I take that's like the traditional sense.
No,
right, KJ? Is that not what you mean also by change, or?
Yeah, I tried to reduce it even further to describe these distinct events in some causal process, because he was saying originally that God is the uncaused cause. All right, so I thought my definition was
that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know. I think that just might be like an idiosyncratic notion of like God being in causal relations. I don't know what it means for something to be aspatial and atemporal and somehow causally interact. Take it that's like sufficient for causal inertness.
Yeah, you're not. That's I don't know the terminology. Like I said, I just know that. But
Clearly,
yeah, I do. I actually do.
you do.
I don't go to class for this shit. I don't know. I didn't go to no fucking philosophy class for none of this. I just naturally know this shit.
Well, that's
I
good.
took a philosophy class either.
No.
So, I mean, back to my original question. Can you tell me where you were at in the conversation with Monkey Boy and what you sort of made postulations for or conceded to? Because if you're asking me, I don't think you understand.
All he asked about the concept. Essentially, he asked about the concept of deism, which is like, can God can? Yes, that's
Pretty sure Trey agrees. I'm pretty sure we hopped off once he said God is identical to a set.
You literally said, "Can God? If God doesn't like you said something. You asked me a question along the lines of, if God create like if God ceased to exist, would the world cease to exist, or would reality cease to exist?" And you said, "How do I feel about that statement?" And I said, "I don't honestly, I don't know, but I do believe that cease to exist would be coincide with both. Everything would cease to nothing would exist."
What you said. He asked explicitly, would that
Well,
be a knowledge
how
claim?
are you this bad? How are you gonna ask me about where the question was, where I left off in the conversation, and then you don't
Because
know
I'm
that
tracking. And
that
you
was the
outright,
last thing. That was the last thing that Monkey Boy,
look,
was that the last thing you said? Be honest, please, bro.
meta aside,
What
right?
was the last thing I said?
You asked me about if God ceased to exist, would reality cease to exist?
I believe the last thing I asked you was, yeah, I believe that.
That is the last thing you asked me. If reality ceased to exist, would God cease to exist? And I said, I don't know, because you're talking about deism, right? That is a form of deism where God just creates and then he goes away, right? That's deism. So I'm saying I don't fucking know, but
Wait,
I don't.
excuse me. Maybe I'm just not tracking, but I distinctively remember Monkey Boy asking you explicitly, would this be a knowledge claim under your view? And you responded with yes.
Would this be a knowledge claim under my view? And I said, that was before the question. I was saying yes, I believe that, and I said yes, I believe that is a knowledge claim. Yes, I said that multiple times.
Yeah, what were you
No,
saying you believe?
initially you said yes, it's true, and that's why I said that seemed to be a knowledge claim, and then you signed off on that, and then I asked you if you take it that knowledge claim was true, and then you said that you retracted whether you know it or not, and that you just believe it.
I do, because I don't like that's deeper into the mind of God that I'm like, I don't know, like, but I do believe it though. I don't know though.
Well, the only reason I'm asking you is because you outright said to me that you weren't listening, or you had goldfish memory. One of the two.
Look, I mean, he did sign off on God being identical to a set.
I don't think he knows what that means.
I don't know. When I said, what does it mean for like a set to have a mind or set to exist? He kind of like gave some like gibberish, almost like tiny monologue. I didn't really focus much on it. Maybe that was on like an error. Maybe there was like some substance there. I didn't really pick up on it, and that's why I just like kind of like lost interest in like tracking what was being said. But maybe we can go back. Do you like have an account of what it means for like a set to have a mind?
And what do you like? I wouldn't.
Does he know what a set is?
I would say all things that are in correlation. Yes, like you're talking about like you're talking about the group of things that can be compiled upon each other that can within the process itself.
My liking, or is it him? Well, look, let's say I have a collection of apples. Now we're just going to describe that collection of apples as a set. Now, what does it mean to say the set there has a mind? The collection itself of apples? Because the collection is not the same as like as the set of elements contained in the set.
Okay.
You want to say the set is satisfied by having some certain like parameter of geography and having like the predicate of being an apple. Now, what does it mean for that set to have a mind? You think sets have experiences?
In this case, if you're talking about God, of course God would know, like that's part of knowledge, is experience.
So God is a set that has experiences.
Yeah.
Think of this, K.
I'm completely lost. I'm lost. I don't know what this means. When you say a
I
set,
think sets can have experiences.
President, when you say this, I'm thinking of like an apple orchard, right? Let's just call that the set. I'm thinking of them having experiences. But what I take for something to have experiences isn't cohesive with what you're saying. And I don't think it's cohesive with what you're saying because earlier in the conversation, right? He
And
asked
look,
you.
maybe this would make it simple. Or actually, you can finish saying what you were saying. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's fine, man. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you take it that it's required that for something to have experiences, it must have cognitive faculties?
Yes.
Cognitive Okay, what cognitive faculties do you think a set has?
The set knows all things that are within possible things. Like, what do you mean?
Wow.
Like, it just knows.
Well, first, to say that the set knows is just a mental state, and to say that it knows everything is just the extent of mental content. I'm asking, what are the cognitive faculties, right? Like an example of what I might say is a cognitive faculty that allows me to have experiences is my faculty of perception that might be, described like physically by certain like visual facts and stuff, like my retina, and we might describe the physical structure of an eye to be a cognitive faculty and how it captures like observable phenomenal data.
Okay. So, to me, all that reduces back to your mind, because your mind is doing all of that. Like, that's just what a mind is. Like, that's just.
Well, a cognitive faculty is what captures the data for your mind. The mind is that which has the mental content.
To me, that all I'm hearing is my mind perceives this, and this is how I describe what I'm perceiving. That's all I'm hearing.
What? I'm asking, are you just saying that these sets have mental content irrespective of cognitive faculties? Because you said earlier that it's required there's cognitive faculties.
Yeah, if you like once again, this is gonna be the crossroad, because if you literally just want me to give like descriptions of like cognitive faculties, I think those are just the byproduct of a mind in general. Like, you need those you kind of know those cognitive faculties by having the perception of those cognitive faculties. Like, I don't know, like what, like.
Maybe repeat that. I'm not sure I understood what you were saying.
So you're just like, you're asking a question about cognitive faculties and describing something about cognitive faculties, but the thing that you're describing already comes from the mind in the first place. So like, you're using the mind to do that.
Well, a cognitive faculty can be described as like some type of system or mechanism or apparatus that is used to like attain like mental content or furnish mental content. Them with like maybe environmental facts or something. But all I'm really saying when I ask what mental faculties does God have, I'm asking, or sets have, whatever. I'm just asking what explains why God has this particular set of mental content. Like, what explains how he gets this content?
What explains it? What explains that? I got a story for that. To be continued. That's what I'm working on currently.
Let me just get this clear. At the time, you don't have like
No, I
a fleshed
do have
out
the answer. I have the answer completely.
What's the answer?
I'm gonna release that when the time is right. I do got the answer to that though.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, I have like, I mean, just to be clear, I take that to be evidence you don't have an account, but
you're asking for checkmate, essentially. You're asking like, what does checkmate look like? And checkmate, it is here. I'm sorry to tell you that.
I think it would be more fun if KJ continued to talk with you, I guess.
Okay.
What I've gathered from this conversation, we originally asked monkeyboy, as an atheist, how can he ground?
And do you mind muting? Your background's pretty loud.
Yeah, that's crazy. How can he ground? I think you said all things, or reality, or existence.
Yeah,
or something.
the set of real things.
Set of real things, and I'm gonna like parse out half the dialogue that's irrelevant. But I've gathered that your grounding for the set of all real things present is a set that which has cognitive faculties that which produces experiences, and those experiences somehow ground a notion of global subjectivism. Now, I don't think I've ever in my life heard anybody try to flush out the answer that you asked for, but that was really interesting. I don't know what you mean by set. I don't think you're using it in the way we're using it. Maybe we're thinking differently.
Maybe, but that is it's just the final piece to the puzzle. Your atheism dies completely, to be honest. So
You know, if
I
I
don't even know what that
had
means.
if I had interlocutors that I thought were irrational, incompetent nincompoops, right, I would want to, out of the goodness of my heart, right, as charitable cage, I'd want to help them, and I'd give them this 1-2 kapow. You know what I mean? I'd give them this checkmate, like any prominent grandmaster at chess. So you not doing that is not some like honorable, notion. It leads me to believe that you're actually down like minus 18 and not positioned to checkmate anything.
think so.
Correct. He just has one pawn left.
It seems like you have one pawn present, and I'm on. You're on.
And
the
we made 3 pawns queens, so
We're
Yeah.
just like, I don't know. I'm gonna go though because my brain hurts.
I was gonna tell him you should ask the ice cream man guy to give his account for how there's like a reality without a god. Would be more interesting now.
There you go. How you thinking? How you thinking like a god, buddy?
I want to keep the respect,
I want to do like one-on-one though. I don't really want to have like multiple.
I'll mute.
This guy's ridiculous. This guy just appealed
Yo, what's up, PMars?
What's up? Remember last time you just appealed to incredulity?
No, I don't. But
you don't?
sure, let's
Well, you're done.
Let's
You're done. Okay, next person. All right. Do you have anything to say, Abby?
Not right now. No.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna move on to other people. Maybe
Okay.
people move this or something. What were you gonna say, Darth?
You know what? I'm so glad you got rid of him. He's such a vile person. He lies all the time, but he conceals a lie with a verbal camouflage. Okay, and that's really despicable when you're going to great lengths to develop the habit to use verbal skill to camouflage just lying and being deceptive. And this is what he does. Look, when he did a video recently where he played a recording of Jack Angstrom giving this totally, false recollection of his interactions with me, and I'm in the best position to know that these were false representations of our encounters and all that kind of stuff. So I wrote a multi-paragraph response that was very, very mostly academic in response, pointing out that that these were misrepresentations and distortions from somebody who's extremely biased and hostile toward me. And I pointed out that one of the main things they were criticizing was my view that clocks don't measure time. And they were laughing and ridiculing that. So I posted a multi-paragraph section from a philosopher of time, Dr. Ryan Mullins, where he concurs with that in his latest Tour de Force book on it. So I posted it, and monkeyboy said, he pinned it to the top and says, Darwkins is crying. So this is why I disdain people like this, because he's young and he's this much of a pathological deceiver at that age. I mean, that's just creepy. It's one thing for people. It's one thing for people to be deeply committed, let's say, to ideas that they debate against others or ourselves, which is fine. But when people are well practiced in being deceitful and evasive and using verbal camouflage, it just means that they're just deceitful.
Well, I talked to him yesterday.
So whenever you say, listen, because you just asked me to prove that claim by a form of classical foundationalism. Remember the 2 theories of truth. So I don't have to disprove Buddhism, just like how you can't universally disprove every other religion but Christianity.
What are you asking for?
Yeah, so, we'll get down to it. Yeah, the preconditions to the possibility of knowledge, but let me finish, what I was saying.
What I was
Okay,
trying to,
and,
Whenever,
and
yo,
how are you
no,
understanding?
listen,
Well,
no,
let's let's take a
listen,
step back real quick.
Ultra,
Wait,
can
hold
you
on,
shut
Monkey
your
Boy.
mouth?
Let's
Ultra, can you shut your mouth?
let's
No,
take
listen, you
take a
came in
step
here,
back.
you wait your turn.
How are you understanding
Host,
grounding?
can you mute this guest? Who is this guy? Thank you so much. All right, so
Well,
listen.
look, let's get clear. How are you understanding grounding?
Ultraviolet, you just came in here. Can you mute? That's not how
Yeah,
you
sure,
join
but
panels. So H. No,
let's
I'm
just
speaking
get
to
clear.
H.
How are you understanding grounding?
Bro, you just got on. Listen, let me speak to H, and then I will address you. Perfect. I'm not running from anybody.
Yeah, that's
so
fine.
Listen,
just
H,
calm down.
No,
right.
no.
Let's
You
get
calm
clear.
down. You calm down. Yo, who do you
what I'm
think
trying
you
to
are? So
what I'm
arguing
trying to like
that the
show is that
worldview.
just because that I can't show
Yo,
like
H,
even
let me
if
finish.
I couldn't
H,
show that
can you shut, bro?
my worldview like
Listen.
that if I
Yo, listen, bro. Are y'all some
then it wouldn't
cowards,
follow
bro?
from that that
You
like
see?
all atheistic
All right, so
worldviews
look,
couldn't
can y'all
quote
let me
unquote
finish
ground
what
or
I was
something like
saying
that.
because he tried to misquote me.
Yeah, but he doesn't
so
seem
I'm
to
arguing.
understand it, so we gotta take a less sympathetic path.
Yeah.
Okay, can you? I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, like the comment said, drop this new guy. So whenever he said,
Come
I was
on,
making the claim.
okay.
For my parent.
Well, let's hold on. So you're saying that any non-God worldview cannot ground the preconditions for intelligibility. Okay, and how are you understanding a grounding relations? Are you understanding a grounding relation in the standard metaphysical sense?
Yeah, do you know what I mean by and I'm not saying
wait,
grounding,
you're using
so
it
that's
in the
not my
standard
terminology.
metaphysical
No.
sense.
Listen, when you ask a question, you let me answer. Listen. So whenever I said grounding, I'm arguing for epistemic justification. So that's not my terminology.
Okay,
as of right
so
now,
all
so
you
that
mean
wasn't
by
the argument.
grounding
let
is
me ask you a question.
epistemic justification?
No. So give me your epistemic justification to the preconditions to the possibility of knowledge.
And
yes.
wait, okay, so you understand preconditions there to be propositions.
What are they? Of course, it's inevitable to not start with presuppositions and formal logic. I already agree with this.
No, wait. No, you're not. What was the question I just asked you?
You just said, are these
tracking.
preconditions?
Yeah,
you just said, are these preconditions? No, did you not say, are these preconditions? That's what you just asked.
No, that's not what I asked.
That's what I'm asking you, the preconditions to the possibility
What
of
I
knowledge.
asked you was, are you understanding preconditions to be propositions?
And I told you propositions can be axioms or presuppositions, so obviously these are propositions.
So precondition X, a precondition isn't a proposition.
And that's why I'm asking you, what are your preconditions? No, you shut your mouth.
Let's just get clear.
No, listen.
Listen.
Well, listen. No. Now I'm gonna do the Socratic method. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
So you're understanding a grounding relation as some type of
this is what atheists do.
epistemic
They want to do a Socratic
justification.
method, but I can't do the same
So if
to
you're
him.
understanding grounding as an epistemic justification,
listen.
then
You're such a
I'm
coward.
not clear what is the proposition you're asking for the inference
I will fuck your mother
for.
till she loves me if you don't shut your mouth, you bastard.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
Wait, come back up, bro.
Look, the point is he's saying that by grounding he means some epistemic reason to believe. Okay, and I want to understand what is the proposition he's asking for the epistemic warrant for.
All right. So whenever I ask
what propositions are you asking for justification for? And
logic.
Let's just say grant
logic.
Logic's not a proposition.
What is a proposition?
Proposition is a declarative expression that is bivalent in truth value.
No, a proposition is a proposed.
Yes, actually, that's the way it's.
Detailed suggestion, and it can be an abstract.
You're saying no? That's the way it's standardly defined in logic.
No, listen, you shut your mouth. No, a proposition can be an abstract.
Yes,
universal.
it is defined this way standardly in logic.
No,
you can look at. Yes, you can read
universal.
SCP into logic, or you can read Russell Marcus, PhD logician's material on introduction into formal logic, and the way he defines it is just that is declarative and has bivalent
Ultra, I don't know what's wrong with you, but listen, I'm not little girls who you probably prey on. So answer my question. What are your preconditions to the possibility of knowledge with epistemic justification? What are your preconditions? I
don't know what you're asking. What proposition there are you asking for the justification
for? Can 1 + 1 not equal 2 in any other possible world? Yes or no?
You just answer the question I just asked.
Exactly. You see how he don't want to answer my questions, chat? He's a coward. Answer my question.
You just changed the question.
Not equal to in any
what you
asked
was earlier. You asked a question about epistemic justification for the preconditions for knowledge. So I'm trying to understand when you say the preconditions for knowledge. I don't. Can we get a mute on him? I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand there. What's the proposition there? What is wrong with this guy and my mother? Look, the point is I'm trying to understand what's the proposition on the table you're asking for the epistemic reason to believe.
Listen.
And rather than giving me that, you decide to exchange the question to an entirely different question about how do I understand mathematical expressions to be necessary.
You're terrifying me.
That's an entirely different question.
No, I'm asking you because it goes along with the uniformity of nature.
Well, just answer the clarificatory question. When you ask question.
No, I'm asking you because it goes along with the uniformity of nature.
Which
That,
is for the justification for.
listen, so I'm asking you a question, right? Because
For the justification for.
listen, so I'm asking you a question, right? Because in the imperialist paradigm, let me ask you a question. Yo, Ultra, I'm gonna be honest, Ultra, you're not gonna do this. I'm not your mother that you fuck.
I just asked you like
whenever
a
I ask you a
question.
question, you answer. So do you accept that in your paradigm?
Yeah, but I asked
you
a clarifying
only allow
question.
epistemic justification. No, you answer my question. You answer my question. Do you accept
Yeah,
that
but
in your
I'm asking
paradigm
a
you only
clarifying
accept
question
empirical
towards the
verification to
question.
verify anything to be valid in your paradigm? Yes or no? Answer my question. Yes or no?
Yeah, so I'm asking you a
Answer
clarifying
my
question to your
you
initial.
uncircumcised dog. Answer my
Once you
question
just
before I
look,
fuck your mother.
okay, well, let's just
Answer
get
my
clear.
question before I fuck
Are
your
we
mother.
dropping the prior question?
Answer my question before I fuck your
Well,
mother.
look, you asked an initial question. The question being, what is the epistemic justification for the preconditions of knowledge? Now, I didn't understand the preconditions of knowledge to be a proposition. So I was asking for clarification. What's the proposition in question you're asking for the justification for?
To the possibility of logic? You waste of a fetus. Your mother should get in a car wreck and die if you don't answer my question.
Can we just? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you should bring him back up. You're gonna get like.
Yeah,
like
I'm trying to get banned.
But he's obviously like Q-Top's twin in how he tweaks out and just has mental illness. Clarify what proposition there does he want me to actually justify, right? And then once I ask that clarificatory question, instead of responding by illuminating what's the proposition in question he requires of me to epistemically inform him, he decides to change it to some weird mathematical question where he asks me how are mathematical inferences true of all possible worlds or something like that. Then I said, look, we can get into that random mathematical modal question later. What I'm concerned with is first you informing me what's the proposition you initially asked of me to give justification for. Then he said I was running and, him smashing my mother or whatever, and that I'm dodging. And I said, look, I'm fine with answering your question if you have primacy over the mathematical question. Just let me know that, so we're not derailing. Just let me know you're dropping that question. But I don't know if he even heard that because he was talking so much about my mother over me. So then he started talking about like smashing like a pig. He just went, it's spurred. I don't know how I was able to like get into any substance with him. And, it just became too much. We had to drop him. So I didn't really understand I don't think he actually has an understanding of what he thought he was going. Like, to be honest, his understanding of tag is so much worse than people like even PMars up here. Because I feel like, although PMars actually doesn't know what the fuck is used in the arguments, he still is more linear in how, because this dude was jumping all over the place. And then instead of clarifying what he meant by a certain thing, which I mean, at the same time, PMars doesn't clarify, but he doesn't spurg like a chimp talking about smashing people's mothers.
PMars, did you want to give it a shot? Or did you just come up just to be a part of the crew?
Wait, I just wanted to ask monkeyboy one more thing. So, like, after all that, if because what I was doing is he was just trying to make the claim that no non-God worldview could do that, ground the preconditions, and then he was trying to ask me for what mine was. Would it be right to just ask him to justify, to not ask the questions and just justify his claim there?
Well, I understood I think you might need to repeat your question. I don't think I gathered exactly what you were saying.
So, even if we do clarify what he means by grounding and all that stuff, it will still be his burden to show that every non-God worldview can't do that, right?
Yeah, well, there was a further thing. The fact that he said by grounding, he meant some justification for the preconditions of knowledge. And I don't understand the preconditions of knowledge to be a proposition. And justification is a property of beliefs towards propositions. So if he's asking me, what's my justification to believe some proposition is true? Well, quite frankly, I don't grant that there's even a proposition on the table to be justified of the belief in. So I was trying to clarify if maybe he can let's say, when I say my argument for God is fine-tuning there's a noun, and maybe the expression fine-tuning is representative of an argument. So I was taking some type of charitable interpretation where, the expression preconditions for knowledge itself isn't a proposition, but maybe it refers to some proposition. So I was just asking, what's the proposition there to be justified? But I understand what you're asking. Now, yeah, obviously most of these presups are just entirely confused. Now, like a worldview isn't just the belief a God doesn't exist. Your worldview is like worldview is understood as like some conceptual schema, right? And the set of things that make sense of your like conceptual landscape. Those would like include your epistemic theories, metaphysical theories, stuff like that. So it's first he has this presumption, you know, like look, maybe a Muslim might say, an ex-Muslim might say they don't believe, or even like an ex-Muslim who became Christian, right? They might say they don't believe in God as insofar as like Allah, right? So saying I don't believe in God doesn't actually make it clear you're referring to the same thing, because God is actually a very like vague and ambiguous term. You know, he might cash out God in a way that you might trivially agree, maybe not. So it's not clear you're actually not equally satisfying the preconditions for knowledge the same way he might as well. So I would have clarified what he meant by God, but sure, obviously it's not true that if one view of atheism is somehow incapable of justifying something, different, you know, philosophy of science, philosophy of math, philosophy of language, different metaphysical commitments, how that might also be eliminated. That like obviously doesn't follow. It's not clear how he's eliminating any view, any landscape that has the commitment to the belief a God doesn't exist, whatever a God there might mean. Right. In fact, I would take it that there's like infinite possible worldviews, because worldviews also like encapsulate your ontological commitments, right? And like as an example, like the numerical number of like fundamental particles I could believe are in the natural world can be like any number, right? I could believe there's a trillion. One person right next to me might think there's like a trillion and one. In fact, there's like layers of infinite, right? There's like several roads of which you can have. So I don't really know it's not even clear how his God is satisfying that. But there's like so much to unpack what he might mean by God, how his God is satisfying these conditions, why I'm epistemically obligated to believe these conditions are satisfied, if there's even a proposition there. I mean, like Presup is just entirely bankrupt bullshit. You know, I wouldn't, there's literally nothing to be sympathetic towards. You should really just try and dismantle these people. But yeah, obviously you were making like an obvious critique. Say my conceptual landscape cannot actually like ground whatever concept, right? Preconditions of knowledge. How does every other landscape that has one similar belief ground it, or is eliminated from grounding it? It doesn't make sense. So I understand. I hear you piping up, PMars.
Yeah, what's
You're asking for a defeater. Well, yeah. Look, by defeater, you just mean like some type of thing that mitigates an argument, right? And I'm just not clear. There's an argument on the table.
Are you serious? So
Serious. We've been through this several times.
It's a bad argument.
You don't even know what
because I'm not
transcendental
clear to me.
modality is.
So that's an appeal to incredulity. So I don't.
You
that's a
finally read
fallacy.
into what transcendental modality was, PMars?
Did you just appeal to incredulity to defeat my argument?
Last time I talked with, well, actually not last time, the time before that when I talked with him and with Jack Inkstrike, he said his reason to believe God exists is because he's necessary for the transcendentals. Then when asked what is the modality, he said transcendental modality. Then asked for an analysis of transcendental modality. Verbatim, he says, I don't know, I never looked into it. And then Jack clowned him, saying, how are you employing a modality and not having a concept of the modality? And then it got into like a bunch of stuff where we tried and like do a stalking horse objection where we said, okay, let's just grant we have like almost an identical concept of like, you know, your Christian faith except Jesus was born like, you know, 1 hour earlier in Bethlehem. How does that change like the preconditions for knowledge? And he was also unable to do that. Video's on YouTube for anyone who wants to watch it. It was pretty hilarious. But I have a more recent interaction with him.
I hope they do watch it because everything you said was bullshit.
Wait, you beat him?
Yeah,
Presup?
I'm sure.
Mars? You beat Ultraviolet in a debate?
Trick, right?
Yeah. No, that question was for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for answering my question, monkeyboy, and thanks for letting me up, Ishi.
Yes, sir. Thanks for being here. Ish. Okay. Presup Mars, do you want to talk about anything or what's up, bro? Okay, if you don't respond, what's up?
Well, I objectively proved God exists. So I don't know. Do you guys have a response to that or?
You did already? You proved God exists?
I do it
So fast it didn't even process.
Maybe his skills are that good that we just didn't even see it. But could you slow it down for us? And what was the proof?
So the debate's going to be over. What?
What?
You muted.
Are you there, PMars?
It's going to be over ...
What ultimate reference point makes the facts and laws?
Questions are in arguments. For like a deductive inference with the conclusion being God exists.
So the debate is going to be over, what ultimate reference point is going to make the facts and laws intelligible. And so, I have the Christian triune God, right? That's going to make the facts and laws intelligible.
Mm-hmm.
What would be,
Yeah, sure, but what's the argument God exists?
What would be your ultimate reference point that makes the facts and laws intelligible?
See how that's not an argument?
Wait, were you asking me a question, PMars?
Right.
Don't fall into the trap of the question. It's obviously not an argument.
The debate is going to be over what makes the facts and laws intelligible, what ultimate reference point. And so as my ultimate reference point, I have the triune Christian God of the Bible. So I'm just going to ask, what's your ultimate reference point to make facts and laws intelligible that we can even debate at all?
You're asking us?
It's the argument God exists, right? We asked what's the argument, and then you asked what's our reference point. Sorry, our ultimate reference point.
Right, because if you're in coming from a model of reality that has an unknown ultimate, you'll be in what's known as a chance universe. There'll be any entity.
So you're saying are entailed, which I just don't grant, but
to each other, and so
sure. But what's the argument God exists?
Unifying descriptions of the world would be meaningless, and so you wouldn't even be able to predicate in such a modeled reality. So I'm just wondering,
monkeyboy, you know what I think?
Debate and settle a matter using facts.
Hold on, PMars. Someone more interesting.
What ultimate reference point would make those intelligible?
Go ahead, Davey.
Yeah. So, I mean, they call it an argument, but every time they argue, they start asking questions. So I'm starting to think it's something more like name the trait, where it's like, what trait is it that's true of animals that if true of humans would justify turning humans into hamburgers or something, right? Obviously that's not an argument. They're asking questions. So if they said, let me give you an argument for veganism, then started running name the trait, that would just not be right. So maybe it makes more sense to treat it like name the trait.
Oh, he ran away.
He actually made the argument against so fast that he got booted from my live.
He got booted, or he left?
No, he left on his own.
Well, I talked to him yesterday, and I presented
No, you should not talk with him at all. He has
I talked to him not very long, and
he has such a long history. He has such a long history of being deceptive.
He came on someone else's panel. I was on someone else's panel, and he joined the panel.
I would just ignore him. He's not an honest person.
All he did was appeal to incredulity. Like he said, I'm not sure what the argument is, right? That's just an appeal to incredulity.
Yeah, this is what he picked up from Jack Angstrom. I'm not seeing the relevance of that. How does that follow? What's the argument for that? They take these legitimate responses and they abuse them in order to stagnate the stalemate.
Pretty much.
Right? They don't have a defensible worldview.
How is it you're debating Christians for this long and you don't know the transcendental argument for God? It's not that complicated. It's ridiculous. But they at the same time they're geniuses or something.
And you know what? And they claim they understand the Van Tillian transcendental argument, and then they represent it by saying, "Oh, you just presuppose God." I mean, that's not an accurate representation of Van Til's transcendental argument.
They have no idea.
I know.
Welcome to I Am. Do you accept God as your creator?
No.
Okay, what's your justification that God does not exist?
I'm actually talking to Presups.
You're a little too close to your mic.
Yeah, I'm talking to Presups.
I'm a moderator here too.
I'm not talking to you.
Okay, goodbye.
I do think that I think your point about
don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, I think your point about
where do they grow these people?